Welcome to Real Estate Focus. I'm Kelvin Law. Our topic is property management. Here with me today are Kevin Trainor and Mike Farraher. They are presidents of Baystate Property Management. They both have roughly combined of 20 years of experiences, and they are here today to share their expertise on property management. Welcome, gentlemen.
Hey,
Thank you,
Thank you
Cal.
for having us.
Thank you.
Glad you can join us on the show today, and let's talk about property management, if you will. So the first question is, why is it important to have property management companies to manage properties, including condos and commercial properties, if you will. You want to start off first?
Sure. I'll take this one.
Sure.
Yeah, Calvin, a property manager is a valuable asset to a property. They do everything from preparing and maintaining financial reports for the association and a condo board. They handle maintenance requests, repair requests. They can oversee capital improvements for the property at large. They essentially try to minimize the time devoted to association matters for the board, so that one can spend more time enjoying the property, making sure that it's profitable and solvent, and just in general good standing financially, and also handle emergency repairs and such matters as that. So
And maintenance as well.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So basically, the property management company is sort of like a problem solver, if you will.
Absolutely.
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
so that's why the unit owners pay the property management company to come in and solve any problems and upkeep the complex, if you will. So what about? Do you have anything to add in terms of property management? Or?
No, Mike did a pretty good job answering everything right now.
It's good. Okay. So in terms of property manager, what are the duties that you can share with the viewers?
I'll take this one.
Sure.
It's actually changes a lot from place to place, and it really depends on what the people that hiring the property manager request.
Right.
There are standard full service, there's maintenance service, there's legal services, but a full service contract, which we would call, you go into a contract with a property manager, generally typically covers the basis of collecting condo fees, paying their bills,
Right.
enforcing their rules and regulations. They also coordinate their vendors, such as landscaping and snow removal.
Right. Right.
But it also can get a lot more detailed too. It's also the property manager's job to maintain the building.
Right.
And as Mike alluded to earlier, make it solvent, make it profitable, make it look nice. Capital improvements, guiding the board of trustees to make the right decisions.
Right.
As a property manager, we are only act on the board of trustees' behalfs,
Right.
which means they make the decisions. So it's important for them to make the right decisions,
Right.
and it's important for us to help them.
Right. So basically, they are your boss, if you will.
Yes.
Okay. So and then do you do accounting as well?
Yes.
You do.
We do
Okay.
the financials. We will also do their annual budget.
It's basically the whole financial package.
Yes, the
if you will.
taxes.
So, okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Pay
Great.
their taxes.
And so I'm sure that each condo association will have its own, like a CPA or something like that. So at the end of the year, you just prepare the budget and send that to the CPA. Is that how it works?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. So in terms of looking for what type of experiences that a condo association or a client is looking for before hiring a property management company or property manager. So what type of experiences or values that clients should look for before they're hiring a property management company?
Sure, I can feel that. A few of the things, I mean, obviously, you want to look at a property management firm. There are plenty to choose from, but the ones that are sort of closely in line with your needs. Specifically, thinking of Kevin and I in Baystate in particular, we focus on the sort of a middle to smaller market. We're looking at property sizes approximately 100 units and below. If you're interviewing a property manager and you're in a smaller or mid-size development, it might not make sense to go with the large-scale multi-state management company that has on-site staff and facilitates a lot of properties like that. It's possible that you can get lost in the fray. I think it's much more wise to choose a management firm that is much more closely aligned with what your needs are in terms of the experience, the type of property. Is it scattered site? Is it a cluster building? Is it high-rise building? Similar needs, similar sort of experience with similar properties. One thing to do in vetting them and researching which property management firm to go with, you perhaps want to go take a view of some of their other properties that they've managed. Is it well cared for? Is it well maintained? Certainly, those are things to consider.
Right. So, in terms of what they're looking for and what type of experiences that you might have, I mean, those two need to be combined or in line with one another. Is that correct? Because
that's exactly what it
it's
is.
about. It's about it takes two to tango, if you will.
Sure.
So,
Yeah, you got to take
right.
the property that you have, and you want to align it with a property management company that specializes in that. As Mike alluded to,
Right.
there are several different property types out there. Some are strong in others, some are weaker in others. But so it's you do your due diligence, you look, you use the wonderful Google out there, and
Right.
and yeah, you want to line yourself up. It's very important.
Right. Now, in terms of, because I know that people that I know who looking to interview property management companies, and they usually look into Google, Yelp, and stuff like that. Now, they'll usually pay attention to those comments. I mean, those reviews. I mean, would those reviews affect the reputation of the branding of the company? Do they waive a lot of scale?
From what I've, my 10 plus years of working with property management, I've noticed that you don't get phone calls when people are happy.
Right.
You tend to get phone calls when people are upset, something's wrong, they don't like what's going on. So,
Right.
It's how you handle them, but you can't please everyone. So
Right,
a negative
right.
review from one person out of 51 units doesn't necessarily mean you're not doing your job.
Right.
But if I can add, I will say that in our experience that communication is really paramount to the relationship.
It is, yeah.
And
Yeah.
communication is the best vehicle by which to resolve any sort of conflict or dissatisfaction. I think that that's sort of one of the things that we pride ourselves on, is being open and certainly flexible and responsive to the needs of our clients.
Right. Good. So responsiveness and communication are very important.
Are vital.
Yeah. Right. So
It's actually key.
that's the keys, basically.
That's
Yeah.
the most
So
important part.
yeah, and basically, you don't want them to call you up and then you try to ignore them or something like that. That's the worst attitude that or service that you can provide, if you will. So yeah.
Yes.
So yeah. And speaking from experience, anyway. So yeah.
Yeah.
And in terms of meetings with the unit owners. And now I know that there are special meetings with the unit owners, and also there are mandatory meetings with the board of trustees. In terms of both, I mean, you want to take one of each. How often do you meet with the unit owners?
Sure. The unit owners, we meet with them as needed, certainly. Oftentimes there will be an ad hoc need to address a community-wide issue. But by and large, the unit owners, we'll see them regularly at an annual meeting and often very much strongly encourage their turnout. A community only thrives and fails on its members and their involvement. So again, along with the communication that we think is very important, is key to the relationship between the managers and the board, we encourage that communication, that avenue with the unit owners themselves as well. So we meet with them at minimum once yearly, but more often as necessary to address ad hoc issues and other things that may come up.
Right, and I think that from speaking from experience that most meetings with unit owners, like for example, like special assessment or amending to bylaws,
Certainly.
or to the rules and stuff like that, that they might need to vote on those issues.
Certainly.
Right? So,
Yes.
yeah. What about board of trustees? How often do you meet with them?
It's case by case basis. We specialize to our customers. So if our customer wants to meet once a month, meet them once a month. If they want to meet once every 6 months, we'll meet them every 6 months. It's really what the customer wants is what you have to cater to.
Right.
That's the most important thing. So there really isn't an easy answer on that.
Right. Right. So yeah.
And again, it is very unique to the property itself.
Right.
One property may have much more of a financial quantitative need for the reporting and the budgeting and so forth, whereas another property may have a unique need where they really need the day-to-day management to be tied down, and that's where we get a lot more communication with the Board of Trustees on a regular basis.
Right. And again, when I took over a building, the trustees want to meet like twice a month actually, for the first 6 months, and then thereafter maybe once a month or something like that. So, and then thereafter maybe twice a month, or I'm sorry, once every 2 months or something like that. So, it depends, you're right, and it varies, from condo to condo, and each condo might have its own issues or complexity or something like that.
Yes.
So yeah, so whatever is needed and whenever is needed. So in terms of document, I just mentioned condo docs or bylaws. I mean, what is declaration of trust?
The Declaration of Trust and the Master Deed is the charter of the condominium association. It's the actual framework of how the condominium association is legally held. Now, within this framework is some of the key elements to how your condominium association is going to be set up. Who owns it? Percentage of ownership, the structure of ownership, some of the key parts to how your condominium is going to be set up. Also, the most important part is the structure of your governing body, how the Board of Trustees is going to be set up.
Right.
So it really does lay the groundwork to how your condominium association is going to be run.
And I want to add one point is that the declaration of trust, which includes the power for the trustees
Yes.
to act.
Yes.
And to act within reasonably duties, if you will, to protect the condo association or on behalf of the unit owners. And so that's what I want to add. And what about Master D, Mike?
Well, certainly. In terms of the operating documents, that sort of, we talked about the Declaration of Trust. That's being that's the charter, the Constitution, if you will. It sort of sets out and gives birth to the legal entity. Beyond that are hung the Master Deed and bylaws and subsequent promulgated rules and regulations, and those are sort of all of the rules of the road, the rules by which a given community agrees to live in order to live peaceably and comfortably alongside one another. There's certainly a financial benefit to condominium ownership, and there's also a management component that is very hands-off by virtue of having a property management firm. You don't have to come home and shovel your walk. And that's a nice benefit.
None, right?
Or mow your lawn.
Mow your lawn.
Right.
The flip side to that is that everyone sort of agrees and abides by the rules, which the bylaws and rules sort of encompass. That could be something from the rules that are set out for parking policies to pet ownership, that sort of thing. So
right, okay. And in terms of, as you mentioned, bylaws, I mean, who can amend the bylaws? I'm talking about including, the rules and regs, if you will.
Board of Trustees, so
Board
you
of
should take the
Trustees,
lead on something
right.
like that, yeah.
The unit owners, I mean, they don't have the right to vote, right? Or they don't care.
We've certainly in practice, oftentimes there's that authority is entrusted to a board of trustees. However, in practice, it's certainly been our intention and our advice to many boards that, especially on issues that are salient to the management and the day-to-day goings on at a particular property, that it's important to include the voices of the community at large. Where those voices are left unheard, they will be heard at some point.
Right.
So it's wise, and we encourage the boards to incorporate different points of view in trying to set fair and equitable policies for the large community at large.
And I know that the next question is, I know that each condo may varies, but when it comes to annual financial, I mean, at the end of the year, do you need to submit the annual financial to the owner, for their record?
Yeah, you do that at the annual meeting.
The annual meeting, okay.
Yes, you'll
right.
end up giving them the yearly,
Okay.
you also give them the annual budget as well at that point too.
Right. Is that required?
Yes.
Okay. Under 183A condo law, right? Is that
Sure.
Okay.
Yep.
Sure.
Okay.
Mass General Laws, Chapter 183.
Okay.
A.
All right.
Sure. And just to, just as a practical consideration, I think that's oftentimes the source of and the answer to many unit owners' questions. They do want to have an understanding of the financial well-being of their investment. They want to see that the place is going in the right direction and that it's being taken care of. And I think that by making certain that they do understand the intricacies of what can be somewhat intimidating block of numbers, a grid of numbers.
Right.
By walking them through such things at an annual meeting and presenting that information ahead of time is something that we like to do, and we try to do with consistency.
Great. And when it comes to the cost to manage a condo, again, each condo is different because it has its own complexities and or variations when it comes to cost. I mean, again, just in general. I mean, when you look at a condo, let's say 50 units, let's say,
Okay.
how do you determine the cost in terms of managing the condo? Again, you don't have to go in detail, just in general.
It really depends on what the prospective client's looking for.
Right.
There are different degrees of services that you can provide them. And when those certain degrees, you have a certain price structure. In general, you can charge a per unit, per fee type of basis. But generally, a full service contract, like I brought up before, it can really vary between companies. There is a pretty large, significant amount.
Right.
I think between the smaller companies and the bigger companies.
And I think to expound upon that, it certainly it is a wide, not only the level of service, but also the complexity of the property itself. Some high-rise buildings may have many elevators, may have particular infrastructure that requires a certain level of supervision on a day-to-day basis. Whereas maybe a townhouse style development, scattered site may not require quite as much in terms of the strict oversight. But that's really it's reflective of the complexity and the needs of the actual property itself.
Right. And and I mean, it depends on the client's budget as well, in terms of how much they want to spend, what kind of services that they want to have.
Certainly.
So yeah, those could factor in, and things may change. I mean, things might improve or degrade, further down the road. So yeah, great. And now, if you want to both take this question, what is the difference between a special assessment versus a capital improvement?
This is kind of a taboo word if you live in a condominium complex.
Right.
I lived in one for 10 years, and you bring up that word and it makes you shiver. Special assessment.
You have to share anyway.
Yeah. A capital improvement job is usually, there really not much of a difference. One does kind of lead into the other. It's just you're anticipation of when the capital improvement job is going to be done. If you can prepare for it and you can build your reserves for it, and you don't need a special assessment. A special assessment basically is a fundraising tool by the association to raise money for a very costly project or something that's the reserves can't cover. Capital improvement is basically what your special assessment is going to fix.
Okay.
You know, whether it's the elevator, it's an older elevator that needs repair, or the roof needs to be repaired. You know, I mean, but with a special assessment, for an example, say they change the rules and regulations of septic tanks.
Right.
Well, you can't prepare for that.
Right.
You know, so that's something where now you're going to have to fix this within a certain time frame, and you don't have it in reserves.
And
Right.
just to further illustrate and define that, this capital improvement itself is typically it's a larger substantial project that either improves the existing structures that are on the property or substantially lengthens its life. So replacement of a roof, repaving of a parking lot, that's the sort of thing that may necessitate a special assessment. It's in large part dependent on what has been held in the reserve accounts, which is what Kevin and I is really our paramount concern, is to make certain that properties remain solvent and remain prepared for the rainy day that may come.
Yeah.
That's what they call the rainy day
Rainy
funds,
day
right?
rainy
yeah,
day
yeah.
fund, right.
Or the reserve in that matter.
Yeah.
The reserve account, correct,
Reserve
yeah.
And I think nowadays, I mean, especially a few years back, where a lot of lenders, they require the condo association to allocate 10%
Yes.
from the budget towards the reserves, right?
That's
for
correct.
the rainy day
That's
fund.
correct,
Yeah.
Most lenders do look for, especially FHA, and they're going to look for 10% of the income, for the annual income, as a set aside for capital reserve improvements.
Right.
Just in the event that
Right,
it points to the financial well-being of the development itself.
And this is across the country.
It is.
Yes,
Yeah, right,
that's pretty.
okay.
Now, it's also, can I just add one more point? It's also very
please.
important for us. Now, special assessment is a large chunk of money that someone that might otherwise not be able to afford. So
Right,
it's extremely
right.
important as a management company to work with your board of trustees to alleviate that burden on all of the potential owners, and so it is very important. It's inevitable that you're going to have one, but it's how you can minimize the damage
Right.
towards all of the owners.
Right, and keep the cost of the repairs down,
Yeah.
and basically minimize the payment from, most unit owners, if you will. So, and in terms of education, what type of education that a property manager should have, or minimally? Yeah.
Sure. I think that the most important thing to look for is your experience with that type of a property. The training goes. There are no licensing requirements in the state of Massachusetts. But I think that having a background in real estate, having a background in the legal aspects, as well as the financial equivalency, is something that a financial aptitude should certainly be something that somebody would look to. I myself, I come up from a legal background. I have a law degree myself. Kevin has a background in finance, and we've both been involved in the both board of trustees and the management of at least condominiums and real estate in general for a good amount of time. So I think those point to that sort of a background qualifications.
It's also very important to have building knowledge.
Right.
Building maintenance knowledge,
right.
and knowing how a building works and the complexities of a building, a freestanding building.
Right.
The different roofs out there. There is no education required,
Right.
but there is really. It's really
just learn
important
as you
to have
go.
a good
Yeah,
know-how in a broad
Right.
range of fields.
Okay, good. And the last question is that what is the difference between on-site or off-site management versus self-management or self-managed condos?
This could be a very long answer, so
Just
I don't know. We'll
very
kind of
short,
break this
brief,
up a
yeah,
little bit. Yeah.
right, yeah.
Self-managed is basically managed by members within the community. A board of trustees is elected, and they make every decision within that condominiums
Right,
association. So on-site is probably, we consider that the premium service, and it's very specific to certain, I think to certain buildings, complex, larger buildings. It's generally a full service, a full staff office on-site. You know, it also can include security,
Right.
concierge service.
And for instance, but what we specialize in Baystate here is off-site, is
off-site,
off-site management. I think that offers us the ability to be a little bit more agile. We don't have the overhead needs and the overhead, the burden of having a full staff
Right,
on-site,
right.
but can manage properties full-time remotely.
Right. Okay. Great. Yeah. Well, thank you for sharing, and thank you for both being on the show.
Kevin, thank you, Calvin, thank you very much
Thank
for
you
having
very
us.
much.
Thank you.
I
Thank
really
you.
appreciate
Thank
it. Thank you.
Yeah. Well, whether whether your condo association is professionally managed or self-managed, it is important to know your condo's financial strength and the condition of the entire complex, so that large special assessment can be avoided. Having a good property management or a good property manager will improve the value of your condo and also provide a safe and a good place to live. Thank you for watching. See you next time. Good job, guys.
Calvin, that was
That was awesome.